Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
I'm Cowboy Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about Outer Range Season 2, Episode 3. This one was called Everybody Hurts. And
Sometimes.
no, that's not in the title. It's just Everybody Hurts, which I find is a flaw. I've never hurt. Tom, you've never hurt. So
Indestructible.
I disagree with the premise of the show almost immediately. Even though you're currently sick and my heart is broken and we're recording a podcast, but we're going to power through because the people demand it. Tom, I enjoyed this episode. Not going to lie. I feel like Outer Range is a show that once I'm done, I'm going to be telling people about this show. They're not going to watch it. You know, everyone's getting rid of Amazon. They don't see the utility in the company.
Free shipping. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and Prime's going up. They're adding commercials. Oh, the commercials is absolutely ridiculous. I don't want to start on a rant right now, but you know what? I am hurt. I'm hurt by commercials. So, back to the premise. Tom, what'd you think of this episode?
No, I liked it, man. Like we said before, it's very fast paced. There's still like a lot going on. I like that we got more of the Tillerson backstory and kind of find out where Amy and Rebecca go in the beginning, which we all kind of assumed this was kind of where they're going, but I'm glad they kind of positioned it. And then we kind of got Autumn going on her very like big religious kick this episode, and I'm for it. I'm interested to get your 2 cents.
Oh, I don't have more than 2 cents on what she's doing. It seems like she might be pursuing this for the wrong reasons, but we'll find out where it's all going to go, I guess. Once again, I don't know that the church people are going to come out smelling like roses in this show, but that's fine. It's their prerogative. Speaking of religious people smelling like roses, I thought this was interesting. This opened with the show being like, hey, remember Rebecca and Amy? They're still alive and they're living really normal lives, which is a bunch of people in some sort of commune. I mean, they have the old rickety swing set, so everyone's doing well. I guess this is some sort of cult.
Yeah, my wife mentioned I think they have the shot that kind of shows them all in a big circle, and then all these big dusty rugs kind of put in a big circle. And my wife's like, "Oh yeah, you don't put rugs outside like that unless you're in a cult."
Yes, that's exactly. Yes, I'm sure we're offending some people in the rug business right now, but outdoor rugs are certainly a move. There's a lot of talk about healing. I don't know. Whenever I see prayer rugs outside, I always assume that Leonardo DiCaprio is going to come running in talking to Russell Crowe on the radio, and he's going to be doing a silly accent. That's
some Gladiator, right?
Yes, that's a Gladiator reference. You're exactly right. Gladiator 2, starring both those gentlemen.
Wow, you got an early screening of it. Good for you.
Yes, I'm in the know in Hollywood. All right. I'm worried about the Royal and Cece marriage. There's been some wrenches that have been thrown and revealed.
Listen,
so
they're finally telling the truth to each other, right? It's, you got to air the baggage.
I'm pretty sure there's just secrets people should keep. And listen, I think the biggest mistake we all make, especially in like politics, is like if you're gonna tell a lie, just double down until you die. Like the only time people, like, perfect example, you get accused of murder and you tell people, and you did murder the person, but you tell everyone, hey, I didn't murder that person. You know, no one's going to know unless you say, you know what, I was lying. I did murder that person. So just take it to the grave. There'll always be someone that thinks you're innocent. So
this is an OJ situation. Is that what you're describing?
I don't know what you're referencing. I love orange juice, but I don't know really. Anyways, Royal had some sort of dream, and he's talking about the house being gone, and he's like, Amy showed up and fix it. And I don't really like shows where it's like, hey, I had a dream, here's some shorthand, take this and like run with it. I don't know. Because he's not dreaming them in the cult, right? Or is the cult's not his dream? These are separate things.
Yeah, these are separate, and you also don't know when he says Amy says to fix it. Is this a young Amy? Is this Autumn, which he assumes is Amy at this point? You don't really know what he's referring to, but it's very on the nose in terms of like you're going to lose the house because the house is very much on the chopping block here. So,
that's right. The house is on the chopping block. I've got some lessons about what you put up for bail collateral that'll happen during this episode, Tom. Autumn, who had a wonderful first service in church, decides to go back for another service. And I did, you know what, I'll get to it when we talk about the pastor, but I did think the pastor said some things that were kind of interesting later on. But yes, Autumn is exploring the rich biblical text and church. The other people that are exploring biblical relations are Rhett and Maria. And
Still off on their own show.
Still off on their own show. Yeah, it's like these two actors. They're like, listen, we can show up to the set, but only this part of the set because Top Gun 3 could happen at any moment, and I've got to go. I think the last time we left these two, Rhett was like, listen, baby, I love you, but we're not going camping. I've got something's come up. Daddy's got to help this woman find her dog, like all of that. And then I guess he's going to court, and this is for, I don't think it dawned on me what court hearing this was. I was like, oh, is Rhett getting finally convicted of murder? No, they're going to, I guess, Perry's bail hearing or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, because Perry's gone, and they wrote essentially to be able to pay for the bail, they put up their house, and now the shenanigans will happen there. But I do appreciate we get some more shirtless Rhett, which I'm always for, and then we get the classic gratuitous butt shot where like an actor is getting out of a bed after laying with a partner, and then it just stays on the partner laying in bed while we get the unfocused butt. I love it.
Now and I don't want to. Well, it's fine. I was going to mention Gratuitous Butt Shots is a quarterly magazine that you and I are subscribers of. It's mostly of Kevin Costner in the 90s, but I feel like maybe that's too much information to give people. So we'll just move on from there. But yes,
we won't say that.
It's amazing how shocking the butt is. Something we all own and use every day. I'm using mine right now. But yes, to see them on film, just absolutely shocking. Scandalous.
Favorite part of my leg.
Favorite part of your leg. Is it How Did This Get Made, where they ask where the butt starts? That's
where does the butt start?
Where does the butt start?
They just always refer to, I think, Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's not a butt. He's got buns.
No, that's
true. We should start calling him buns.
That's true. Maybe Kevin Costner was the wrong reference. Maybe it was JVD. All right, Luke. I'm worried about Luke. I'm worried about Luke's mental status. Luke's having visions of like scantily clad nurses delivering Billy to the house. The show is like, hey, we're going to be kind of normal most of the time, but every once in a while we're going to have Billy and Luke, and I guess anyone from the Tillerson family, have a real weird vision just to make sure you guys are still sitting on your butts, your gratuitous butts, watching the show. Like, this caught me off guard.
Right. I just love the needle drop. We got cherry pie from Warren. Like, it was just so great when you have these, like, just stereotypical hot nurses dressed up in, like, Halloween costumes, essentially. But then he blinks, and they're just normal nurses. It was funny.
Yes, and he does the what? Yeah, he has to roll his tongue up into his mouth after
the windows fogs up. He kind of cleans it.
Yes, exactly. Oh, man. And, okay, so Luke is tasked. Listen, Luke has been tasked. I know you're listening, Tom, because we're talking to each other on microphones with headsets. But I really need you to listen to this. Okay. His edict is that he has to take care of Billy, and if he proves himself taking care of his invalid brother, then we'll talk about the West pasture. Did you find this a weird, like, hey, we don't need nurses in this house. You, someone who is most certainly not a medical professional. Well, honestly, I don't know. Maybe Luke is pre-med. I don't get the sense that he's pre-med. I think maybe he's just watched a lot of House MD episodes. But why, Tom? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Wayne is cuckoo bananas. I don't understand the idea of a rich person kicking out nurses. Like, it just doesn't seem like a very smart play if you want to keep Billy safe. It's not like he's just resting. Like, he seemingly had, like, IVs in him. I'm kind of with Luke here. Like, he's not positioned to do this. He's not a nurse.
No, he's not. And didn't Luke already try to smother Wayne? Is that a false memory I've created? Isn't Wayne?
No, it was Billy. It was Billy. He tried to smother Billy. Oh, didn't he? Oh, no, maybe it was Wayne. And then Billy came and pulled him off.
Wayne, and then Billy pulled him off. And so now Wayne is like, listen, You brought me back to life with that pillow technique that you learned in med school. Hopefully you can do that with your brother. And after you do that, guess what? The West Pasture's yours.
Well, later on with his brother, he tried the fire poker technique, but didn't go through with it.
That's true. That's true. And we talk about this a lot, Tom, just more communication between family members. That's all. Like, let's sit down and talk this through. Like, hey, Dad, I know you and Denzel Washington solved racism through football years ago, but I don't know if I'm set to be my brother's nurse, but it is
fair.
what it is.
Now, Wayne leaves this scene by saying he's got a date with the abbot, so he's going to go to the trial here, the hearing. And then he mentions Deuteronomy. Like, what is he getting at there?
I'm assuming is a callback to the hospital scene where he says, like, essentially, we're going to go Old Testament, which is like mayhem and murder and really wipe their line off the face of the earth. So Old Testament violence, I think, is what he's getting at there.
Gotcha.
Once again, shorthand for the worst parts of the Bible, but that's fine. Let's move on. We're in court. I love this judge, this actor that plays the judge. He's throwing, I don't know, 100 miles an hour. He's in a bunch of things. He's always great. And he's just like, Southern draw this, Southern draw this. I feel bad for you, but Perry's missing, and you've got to pay $500,000 of the land's forfeit. I've got a sweet mustache, adjourned, order in my court. You're out of line. Counselor, like, I don't know. He's just great. This is why Presumed Innocent has hit with me. I just love courtroom dramas, I guess.
Yeah, even the Abbott lawyer's got a pretty solid stash.
No, that's true. In Wabang, you can only be like a legal professional if you can grow a mustache.
Yeah, part of passing the bar is you got to grow a mustache after you pass.
Right. That's why everyone's confused with Young Rat. They're like, so are you a lawyer or? And he's like, no, I just ride horses and get mad at my future wife's current boyfriend. But that is.
Well, I think it's got to be a white. It's got to be a white mustache.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, like the old British wigs. So you could powder your mustache. Smart, Tom. Very dignified.
The lawyers going into the courtroom and putting on their mustaches.
Putting on their mustaches, powdering them. And then obviously there's a scandal where he was powdering his... Sorry, Tom, earmuffs. He was powdering his mustache with cocaine. And that's why his course load was what it was. He was able to be in court 24/7, arguing case after case. Unbeatable, that guy.
The cocaine lawyer.
The cocaine lawyer. Tom, this stuff practically writes itself. I would just like to say copyright so that no one steals that idea. I think that's how copyrights work. Cece takes this well. She's just like, all right, cool, take the land. I don't want it. I don't remember her reaction. I just wrote in the outline that she takes it well, which could have been sarcasm, but in an outline, days later, sarcasm can get lost. Oh, no, she's like, oh, let's have one more dinner all together while we still have the house and the table and food and money and the ability to live under a roof. Oh, by the way, bring Maria over. That's like the mom's subtle way of being like, I know you're trying to sneak around, but I know exactly what's going on.
I feel like it's trying to minimize the awkwardness of their family dinners. Maybe if you bring in like an outsider, it'll be a little bit less awkward. But as we find out later, that's not the case.
Oh, no, that's not. And definitely, like, you're setting Maria. Rhett's job as Maria's, I don't know, love interest, boyfriend, whatever their title is to tell her, hey, you're invited, but do not come because this is going to go poorly. She's mad. She won't express how mad she is, and dinner's going to go bad. Also, her granddaughter is missing, and no one seems to be searching for her.
Also, have you heard my dad's prayers? They're pretty great.
They are.
I think that's why she went.
That goes in the pro column. That's like, pro, my dad's probably going to angry pray again, and it is awesome. Wayne Tillerson being at court in the back, just like being snarky, great. He's just like, you're getting what you deserve. And them having a low talk is really good.
Yeah, the backhanded threatening and everything. But like Wayne says about the retribution, you're getting your retribution for Trevor and Billy. And I'm like, well, he's kind of not wrong. Like, you kind of have done some pretty terrible things to this family.
Yeah, one could argue that the right family is being charged with maybe the wrong crime, but they're certainly
Hmm.
not innocent. But are any of us, Tom? You know, haven't we all accidentally murdered someone and jumped into a hole in the pasture while the house was up for bail? I think we've
Yeah.
all done it at one time in our life.
Everybody murders. That's the title of the episode.
Everybody murders. All right. Autumn hitchhikes to church, meets the pastor. She quotes Ephesians 4:11, which is something about I'm not going to quote it. It's something about like making apostles out of some people, making prophets out of some people, making teachers out of some people, and it feels like she's using this verse because Autumn really wants to run a religion. That's what I've decided. And so she's using that verse. This pastor, I don't know if it's in this conversation or later, but this pastor at one part's just like, hey, pump the brakes. Like, some people are out of their minds and like, we don't need to. I don't know. I felt like the pastor was slightly reasonable in some of
Yeah.
these conversations.
Yeah, I like the back and forth that they had, but I think when he asked her about like, hey, have you ever been part of a church family? She's like, nope, only a cult. Like just so straight laced answered. I thought it was great. I also appreciate that Autumn arrives on church field trip day, so she gets to kind of go around in the bus. It was great.
Yep. She's going to the old folks' home where everything you purchase everything at this old folks' home via cigarettes, just like prison. So that's good.
Now let me ask you, as a kid who went to and grew up going to church, is there church field days? Was that like a fun day, like in school, where like you're gonna be able to travel around and do good in other places?
I mean, we did not call them church field days, but there is a portion of church which is you're supposed to be charitable, so you would go and do.
Field day.
Yeah, you'd be like, hey, this book is 2,000 pages. Read it, and we'll give you a hot meal. And then you're like, but you got to read every page, or no hot meal. No. We weren't that terrible. But yes, we would do things like this. And as a child in an old folks' home, you're mostly just creeped out, you know? So when she says, I've never been part of a church family, but I've been part of a cult, are we supposed? I mean, they're tying it back to the opening of this episode, right? Where Amy is at a
Yes.
cult. And are
So
we
she
saying cult
knows-
too liberally? Are they just at a, like, I don't know, house for broken people? Or does the rugs? I guess, you know what? We talked about the rugs. It is a cult. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't think we know enough, but we do know that young Amy, while she still has her wherewithal, whatever happens at age 9 that's going to cause her to lose her memory, if it is Autumn, she still is there after that time. So if Autumn did grow up here and thinks it is a cult, yeah, I don't know if maybe it's not a cult yet, but then something happens to young Amy and it becomes a cult. I don't know.
Well, she could have some sort of injury and she's still at the cult, so she remembers past that. I'm going to assume it's those rickety swing sets that is going to remove the memory from 9 and earlier from poor Amy. And
That's smart.
as she
Makes
wakes up, she says, call me Autumn. And they're like, but your name was Amy. And she says, call me Autumn. And also, can we anchor the swing set down? I'm the third kid that's gotten a concussion. You people are all irresponsible. And then the guy's like, what if we just move the rugs so that when you fly off the swing, you land on the rugs? And she's like, yes, make it be. And that's when she becomes the leader of the cult.
Make it be. I love
Make
it.
it be. That's a classic line of most cult leaders. Make it be. Perfect English. Can't believe I'm sober. Royal and Perry. This is young Royal, normal sad sack Perry, the saddest of sack Perrys, trying on bad hats. I thought this was a funny scene, mostly because the hat that the lady is trying to sell to Perry is absolutely outrageous. But we find out this was interesting. This is Royal's like oldest living relative, and they, I guess, are there under the guise of clothes shopping, and they ask about Rebecca. I did wonder if he's showing this picture around of him and Rebecca, no one's like, oh, you guys are in strange outfits. But we're assuming that Perry, his timeless cowboy shirt and jeans, works, you know, in any year.
Yeah,
But
I think that's a fair point. Yeah.
and I guess
Pretty
this is a
universal wear.
commentary on how fashion is cyclical. Tom, you wanted to talk about that. Go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh man, I'm not a fashion guy. I feel like you're more of the cowboy jeans, flannel shirt, cowboy hat.
Like a rock, flag, and eagle. You know, they never go out of style. Freedom doesn't go out of style, Tom. I've been saying that for the last several days, and I hope it sticks. Maybe, possibly. Although I've got some questions, so maybe it doesn't work. Never mind. Let's move
should put
on
that on a
from
t-shirt.
freedom. We should put it on a T-shirt. This old lady has not seen Rebecca, but we find out that this is Royal's last living niece, and you know what? We should have directed the fashion talk to Mrs. Thurby because she knows what's going on with that 30-gallon hat or
Yeah.
30-gallon.
She's been trying to sell that hat for years.
That's a good point. That was she got into an argument with her co-store owner and was like, this hat will go so quick, you'll see. And it's been on the shelf for 9 years. Anyways, this is Royal teaching Perry, like, hey, you've just got to accept what's happening to you, and you just got to figure out a life here and live it. And feels like he hasn't looked into Perry's eyes enough because Sad Sack Perry's not going to accept that. Sad Sack Perry's not going to be happy anywhere because he's a sad sack. So, but Royal
He's got
is-
sadness behind those eyes.
There's so much sadness behind those eyes. We're at the old folks' home with Autumn. She's doing a great job trying to get this old lady who I wrote her name as Mustang Sally. Could that possibly be her name in the show? Is that a joke? Did I write that?
I think Autumn references. I think her name is Sally, but Autumn references and calls her Mustang Sally. But yeah, essentially they just have like a cryptic, timey-wimey style conversation about like time and wasting time. But I guess they kind of figured out their kindred spirits because Autumn gives her a cigarette and all is right with the world.
Tom, now, you often carry things in your pockets because you're the guy that, always likes to get out of situations. One of the things you always carry a Marlboro Red, a Cowboy Killer, cigarette for situations like this. What other things do you always keep in your pockets? I know it's a piece of candy in case you ever need to get a kid to get close to your vehicle.
Oh yeah, Werther's original. You gotta
Werther's
always have a
original.
couple
in
of
case you
those.
need to get an old person close to your
Yes.
vehicle. So you have 2 pieces of candy. One's for old people. One's for children. That makes sense.
And then toothpicks. You never know when you're gonna need a toothpick.
Oh,
Sometimes they poke you, but it's worth it.
Sure. If you ever need to defend yourself, you've got that thousands of
Well, no,
stabs.
I don't use the toothpicks for that. I use the little mini swords you put in cocktails.
Oh, yes.
Not sure those are a thing anymore, but those were great.
I'm familiar. They should be a thing. I remember taking them home for restaurants, trying to put them in my G.I. Joe's hands and then breaking the thumbs on my G.I. Joe's because the handle was too big. And then I would try to do it on my older brother's, and he'd get mad because his always stayed in the package, and he never had any fun. I would say he wasted his G.I. Joe time.
I would agree.
All right, Royal and Cece go to the bank. This was very sad. I wanted this scene to lead to Hell or High Water, where Cece and Royal are robbing banks in order to pay back banks. I guess spoilers, but that movie's awesome. You know what? Once we're done here, Tom, I'm going to go watch Hell or High Water because that movie,
Smart.
pump it straight into my veins. They need a loan. This bank, not going to lend them a loan because the Abbott name has really gone downhill.
Yeah, and there's clearly some history, I guess, with Cece, this family, the banking family, and them. So she's like trying to call in this favor, but they have this whole like poop attracts flies because there's a fly on her muffin, and I love the way Cece exits this scene. He's like, "Clean up your life, Lindsay." It's like, we don't know Lindsay. We don't know her life. She just had a muffin on the table. Like to tell her to clean up her life seemed pretty harsh.
So you left this like very emotional scene where we're supposed to feel for Cece and her life falling apart, and you were like, "I feel bad for Lindsay."
Yeah,
Cece
she's
was
doing her
mean to
best.
Lindsay. That's where you're. That's
Yeah, she
where
runs a
you're.
bank, not a charity.
Okay, that's fair. Old Bailey's Bank and Loan. You're on Mr. Potter's side from It's a Wonderful Life. That's
Exactly.
That's classic Tom. A man for the man is your logo. You always side with corporate. That's for sure.
I did a summer internship at Gringotts.
Gringotts. All right. Yeah, our frame of reference, for those of you still trying to figure out, is Harry Potter and It's a Wonderful Life. And then we meet in the middle at Hell or High Water. So good luck to you. I think this is a flashback, or this is some sort of vision where we're reminded that Luke dug up the hole that released all the buffalo.
Mm-hmm. I think we're interrupted by Billy's air horn, which I love this air horn. It's great.
Oh, yes. His R horn. Yes, I really enjoyed that. Lucille's R horn. Mm-hmm. The question I had for you is, so all of these buffaloes are brought from a different time, right? Mm-hmm. Buffalo aren't extinct. They were close to extinction, but they're not extinct. Are we not having enough of giant buffalo herd tore this town to pieces conversation? Or are we just accepting that, hey, there are now roaming herds of buffalo in Wabang?
Yeah, I feel like there was probably already some herds. Now you just got more. I feel like they spent a decent amount of time in the first episode about like the chaos at the sheriff's station about all these buffalo running wild. So I'm sure they did some property damage. There's some issues, but now they're just roaming. They're probably messing with the ecosystem, but we'll figure it out.
I mean, this place has an old folks home. You're not telling me one of those old folks homes was outside, one of those old people was outside ripping heaters, and by that I mean cowboy killer, Marble Reds, and then a buffalo knocked him over and they died. Like, that would make the news, and someone would be like, hey, why all of a sudden are all these buffalo killing people and wrecking shop? Are buffalo herds just the tornado, the twisters of Wabang? They just are used to them when they tear through town?
Yeah, I think that's it. Are they buffalo or bison? Is there a lane?
Tom, it's too late. I wrote buffalo in the outline. Let's just move on like the herd. The air horn, to your point, was classic. Do you own an air horn?
No, I should. I just have the air horn app on my phone.
Maybe we should use an air horn on the podcast. Like, instead of
Commercial
interrupting
breaks?
each other when we want to talk, we just shoot the air horn into the microphone so that the other person knows that it's time to be quiet.
It's a good idea.
It feels like you'd just be air horning me a lot. And
well, I mean, yeah, you're right. Listeners need to tell us if that's a good idea or not. Do you want to listen to me air horn Julian for an hour at a time? TeamBingePodcast@gmail.com.
It doesn't sound right when you phrase it that way, but let's move on. The air horn is also that Luke has to empty a bedpan. And
no, I do appreciate it. I think he spills a little bit on his boots, and I think he says a line that says like, these are $10,000 boots, and I couldn't help but think of Job about being spilt on his $10,000 suit. Come on.
Yeah, like the guy in $10,000 pants is gonna empty the bedpan for the guy in the bed. Come on. Yes,
so good.
Honestly, I did not think of that, but you bringing it up brings me so much joy in my soul. We're back with Church and Autumn. I thought I had more poignant things to say about this interaction, but I'm interested to see where Autumn and the church goes and whether or not this is where the cult of Autumn starts. I'm assuming that's where it is, right?
Yeah, she's getting pointers to kind of make her up her own little deal.
Right. And so the church is now at Billy and Luke's house. And at one point, Wayne knows this is happening, like they call, and he says something to Luke like, don't let him Jesus up the house, or don't let him church up the house, or something, with such disdain. And I thought it was funny. It's like these people are probably bringing over a meal. They want to check in on Billy's welfare. And Wayne's response is, don't let him church up the house, which is just a wonderful, wonderful moment.
But see, there you go. It's showing church people being lovely and kind people.
Sure. Except for, I think they cut out the scene where all the old ladies try to smother Billy. They try to send him to heaven directly. They're like, we got you, buddy. We know where you want to go.
Well, if you look in the background, there's one of them trying to steal one of the owls off the wall.
Just tucked under their sweater. There's just a wing sticking out. Speaking of beautiful, beautiful meetings, Billy and Autumn. This was lovely.
So great. You get Billy's not fully in it, right? Like, he kind of was responding in like one words, but what does Autumn say? Like, we live inside each other, which definitely wasn't weird at all. No. But it was a beautiful moment.
Reminds me of that classic Infant Sorrow song. Those of you that know it's a great, great song inside of you. Turn it on your Spotify playlist. All right. Luke and well, see, I'm a little bit confused. Are we rooting for Autumn and Billy, or are we rooting for Autumn and Luke? Because clearly there is a spark developing between Autumn and Luke, right?
I don't know. I mean, you had kind of called this out, and I mean, kudos for it because they had like a kiss later. I don't understand what sort of like romance is going on here. It seems just more they're trying to figure out and deal with the craziness of this black stuff on their land and have a common interest there. I don't understand the kiss, and I don't know if I need it.
Well, when did they kiss? I don't remember a kiss. Is it here?
It's like later. I think no, it's later on when I think after they meet the handsome gambler, he drives her back to I think the Abbott's house, and they're like outside the car, and they exchange a kiss.
Interesting. Well, visiting the handsome gambler, do that. You know, it's a romantic place. So are old folks' homes. So are invalids in bed in a living room surrounded by owls at a rich person's cabin. Yes, all romantic places.
I do love the tropiness of this. My wife commented on it, and I couldn't agree more. Of her telling Luke, he's like, "Hey, meet me at the handsome gambler." Doesn't give a time. Doesn't say when. Is this today? Is this evening? Just like in 10 minutes. It's a classic trope, and of course they meet there at the exact same time.
Tom, how quickly you've become spoiled. Don't you remember before cell phones when you wanted to meet up with a friend and you just pedal on over to their house, knock on a door, the person would be like, they don't live here, and then you'd knock on 3 other doors until you either found your friend or their parents said that they had left for the summer. I don't know. We used to meet people without phones or giving times.
Well, you should still give it time. I'm with you. Like the reliance on technology, sure. You don't have to send a text with the exact time, but at least say, "Hey, meet me at the pub at noon." Like
that's fair.
That seems like a smarter play.
That's fair. Handsome gambler at midnight. Be there. I've got you. I understand what you're getting at. We have the conversation with Autumn and the preacher where they're talking about prayer, and she's getting all upset because she's like, prayer is in action. Jesus was crucified because he spoke the truth. He spoke the truth to power. And this preacher's like, hey, can you calm down? You're getting really, really riled up. And is it him or her that's like, if you want to help people, you need to learn to serve? I think that's the pastor's message to her, which I thought was not a bad. As a cult leader, what does Creed say? It's you make more money as the leader, but you have more fun as a follower. You know,
yeah, exactly. There is the church sign or marquee says "Lean not on your own understanding," which I thought is kind of like a fun, double meaning for obviously something for the church and then just our general understanding of what the heck is going on in the show. I thought that was kind of clever.
Sure, the same person that put up like America wants you to believe what you don't want to believe and America's wrong wrote that sign too.
Yeah,
it's just one. There's one sign guy in Wabang, and they're all about not believing things or leaning on your own understanding.
Yeah, Petrov.
Yeah, Petrov working for the Chinese. That's right. I remember. Perry and Royal. They're talking again, and guess what, Tom? Perry's still a sad sack. And he tells... This was a weird compliment. He's like, Royal, you're a better father now than you were in my time. And it's like, I don't know. Royal seemed to be taking pretty good care of you, sad sack Perry.
Mm-hmm.
And
when he sees old Royal, right? Like he kind of like envisions him or sees him over the young Royal, and he kind of tells him that, like, hey, when I jumped into the hole, I was a kid. Like, you were a grown man with responsibilities, and you still jumped into this hole. So he's kind of like telling him off here.
Yeah, I just think it's mean to compare young, handlebar mustache, big bicep Royal to old Royal, where life has slowly beaten him down. I just don't think those things are comparable. Mm-hmm. Perry, at this point, is it he takes responsibility or young Royal is like, listen, you can't blame anyone about the murder but you? Or does Perry take responsibility? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Good. I would assume no, just because the way that this conversation is going on with him seeing the older Royal in the young Royal in front of him.
Well, I thought there was a moment, and maybe I'm misremembering this, where Perry like actually took the blame, and you see it. I think you've mentioned it. Like they weren't like it wasn't just an accidental fist fight. Like Perry punches him aggressively in the throat and then repeatedly. So rather than it being like a bar fight that went wrong, it's definitely murder. Like you could say maybe he was in a rage, but still murder, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
Capital M.
Capital M. Capital M for, say it with me, murder. Murder. All right. We're at the Handsome Gambler. Luke and Autumn are hanging out. He's like, what happened to your wound? And she was like, my wound is bison related. So I guess they are talking about it. And I just said bison instead of buffalo, Tom. So now I'm even more confused.
Yeah, but interchangeable.
The hole is closed. The bartender at the Handsome Gambler, I bet he goes home every night to his family. And he's just like, the stuff people discuss in the bar are just out of this world. Like crazy talk.
I mean, he's at a bar, right? People are drinking. He's probably used to it.
You think if someone was like, yeah, there was a hole in the West Pasture and it sucked all our sins into it, and then I went through it and time changed and I shot my dad. You don't think that bartender's like, hey, I was just listening over here and I'd love to be a part of this conversation. Don't mind me, keep going. And then he turns on a little tape recorder. Luke shares his vision where he saw her and just how powerful she was. And this is where she declares that she wants the mineral.
Yeah, I guess she's just looking to score some of this black lightning. I don't know. Some drugs.
Yeah, she's like, I need my fix of the black lightning. It would be nice if they would give it a name, because we haven't, other than the scientists calling it time, no one's called this stuff anything, right? They've just called it the mineral.
Yeah, we should just go back to calling it space goo.
Space goo or black tar mineral, black tar heroin, I mean, angel dust, PCP, any of those names that we said before works for me.
Well, I like devil dust.
Devil dust is pretty good. Yeah. I like that a lot. He's high on the devil dust. He went back in time by jumping in the devil dust. I think that works really well. Let's adopt devil dust. Beware of the wiles of devil dust. Yeah. All right. Speaking of devil dust, Billy is air horning and no one's coming. And I think this is where he falls out of the bed a little bit. And we find out that he has some devil dust stashed in a model car. And then he does devil dust on his lips. And this leads to some son and dad kissing. And the person I was watching with made a comment about how great Billy's jammies are, which was a fun comment.
Horsies.
And
Great.
I think she was just trying to make us focus on something other than Billy and old Wayne smooching with devil dust on their lips. So, Tom, you said this was the scene you wanted to talk the most about. Please take the floor.
Yeah, it was a little much. I agree. Billy starts floating away to the song "What Calling All Angels" by Noah Reid. Just great. I want to ask a question though about what this black or devil dust is doing to people, because I felt like it was more giving them hallucinations of time and dealing with timey-wimey stuff. Whereas now it seems like, I don't know, have they grown an immunity to it and now they're just tripping when they take this drug? Like there's no time element to it, which I thought that's kind of like the deal with this.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you, Tom. It's a great question. Honestly, it's a solid question. I mean, you could argue that if an Abbott does the drug, maybe that has something to do with time. But when a Tillerson does it, it's just like uncut cocaine. I don't know.
That's interesting, right? Because, yeah, we know Luke is kind of seemingly going insane from it and just can't handle it. I don't know. But he still had some time stuff. He saw, like, Autumn in the hospital. So I don't know. It's interesting.
It is very interesting. And hopefully the answer is not just, hey, the show wanted to be bonkers. Hopefully there is a reason.
I think it might be that answer, though.
Yeah, I know. My only sadness is we did not get some sort of Wayne and Billy duet during this moment.
That's a good
it
call
would have
out.
been
That's
wonderful. So we go from son and dad kissing to Autumn and Luke kissing. And we talked about this a little bit. I thought both kisses were unnecessary, and I think TVs show too much affection. And so we should go back to a time where television shows showed no affection. This should have been a strong handshake.
Yes. Again, I don't understand. I mean, I'm not going to call this a romance. I just don't know why Autumn goes in for this kiss here. But she does ask him, like, essentially, what does Luke want from all this? And he says the one thing he wants most in life is to matter. So, like, Luke is having this, like, I don't know, young middle life crisis and trying to figure out where he belongs.
Well, based on how long his brother lived, it might be end of a life crisis for Luke.
Touché.
So we don't know. None of us know what port in our life we are, Tom.
That's fair.
That's is she just gathering followers through kisses? Is she assuming that he's also done the devil's powder and he has it on his lips? And she's like, I'm just going to try this to see if I get a little bit of a contact high? I don't know.
Is she Poison Ivy? Is she Uma Thurman from Batman Forever or whatever Batman that was, where Uma Thurman kissed people on the lips and killed them? I don't know. I'm not going to rule it out.
I'm not going to rule it out either. So he's her Mr. Freeze. I gotcha. That's right. And Royal's the Penguin. Yep, this is all
I watched
tracking.
part of that recently. It is bonkers.
Listen, all those superhero from the 90s are bonkers, or early 2000s, whenever that was. I mean, Batman's suit had nipples, you know?
He did have nipples. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got to let him breathe.
Yeah. Poke an eye out. All right. We're back at I love the dinner table. Royal family dinner. Guess who showed up? Maria and Rhett. Autumn's there. Autumn is looking rough. Every time Autumn moves, I relate because it feels like her body is also racked with pain. The house is up for auction. I kind of assumed, and I don't think this happened, I kind of assume Autumn's got money, right?
I don't know if she does. She's getting money from her mom, but I don't think she's getting it anymore.
Okay, she had a phone conversation where she's cut off? Because I really feel like this is a good time for Autumn to be like, $500K? Oh, that's chump change. Give me, some of that devil's powder, and your house is yours.
Yeah.
Instead, as most family dinners do, this devolves into an argument, and the new girlfriend is offended, and she leaves. And Rhett is like, this is such a great line from him. He's like, hey, some people just mean well. Like, they're just trying to be kind and help. And I don't know. I thought this was very relatable, where if you're upset, you see everything as an insult as opposed to people just trying to be kind.
Yeah, and I just don't get, like, Royal and Cece here are both very just cold to her. Like, they invited her to this dinner. I don't know why they're being such jerks.
Well, they were in much better when they sent her the invite. They were in happier moods. Remember, they just learned that their property was going to be taken away. But now that it's dinner time, like, it's kind of weighing on them a little bit more, so they're upset. Yeah. So yeah. This is sometimes what happens. You're in a good mood. You invite people over. By the time they get to your house, all your plants have died, and it hasn't rained in months. And you're just sad sack Julian, And then you have to record a podcast, and the sadness slowly eats at you.
I can't see your eyes, but there's definitely sadness in them.
Yes. I'm going to look up my Hawaiian name after this is all done.
Piopi.
All right. I wrote Perry is at the bar. Oh, this is him drinking alone at whatever the equivalent of the Handsome Gambler becomes.
It's got to be the same Handsome Gambler, right?
It's the same bar. I don't know if the name is the same. I'm leaving it open that this is like the Young Handsome Gambler or something like this. This is like the Young Handsome gambles occasionally a bar, and then eventually he becomes the Handsome Gambler.
The mediocre-looking, financially sound gentleman.
Yeah. There you go. That's a great bar name. Oh, that's incredible. Oh, copyright. No one can steal that now. Thank you.
It doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but I mean...
Oh, that's incredible. There's an acronym in there I'm sure people would start using. All right, we find out that Wayne Tellerson is a sales guy. He's yucking it up with people. He's bringing them by the fanciest place in town so that they can shoot pool and he can sell them beef.
Yeah, best beef in the country, baby.
Best beef in the country. Tillerson beef. We've all had it. Then we have a rather brutal scene where Wayne is back at the house. He's realized that Luke has left Billy alone, so he is not a responsible nurse. Surprise, surprise. Wayne really goes after Luke with some unkind things. He calls him selfish and that he's filled with self-pity. And then Wayne goes through his birth order book, which is quite sad. And his birth order book says that the oldest son is supposed to build the legacy. And forgive me, Luke is the middle son, right? Or
yes, Luke
Trevor
is the middle
was the
son.
oldest.
Trevor was the oldest.
Okay.
Yes.
So Trevor, who's the oldest, really built that legacy by being punched to death in a parking lot and then magically sent to the top of a mountain. Done. The youngest loves the parents. That's his job. Everyone loves Billy. He's a singer, an owl killer, probably, and an incredible fashioned eye. And then the middle son is an insurance policy. So Luke is a poor insurance policy. Tom, you have siblings. Did your parents ever read the birth order book when you were younger and then try to imprint you with what birth order meant to your personality?
I never even heard the term birth order book until you just mentioned it right now.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say 90s or 80s. A guy wrote a book on the birth order, and it's essentially just like pop psychology, where it's like, hey, the oldest son or the oldest child will have these traits. The middle child will have these traits. Youngest will have these traits. Blah, 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 blah. And then it also goes into like, I'm sure he wrote a sequel where it's like, and this order of child marries this order of child, like their compatibility. So I'm not going to say who, but someone in my family read it years ago and still quotes it and talks about it as if it is science, and I do not believe it is science. So,
well, you have brothers. You are a middle son, so are you an insurance policy?
I am an insurance policy, and I am also the black sheep insurance policy because all the other sons live lives well and don't have podcasts. I'm the only one that has a podcast and therefore have been rejected by my parents, which
That's
is fine because Gam Gam loves this podcast and she sells it to others at the old folks' home for a couple of cowboy killers and cigs every day. They don't understand how podcasts work. They think it's like a one-use thing. It's
as many times as you've referenced that, I'm assuming we're sponsored by them.
Yes, by Marlboro Red. Yes, sir. Yeah. In fact, I'm supposed to smoke one on mic here, so I'm going to do it without coughing or throwing up. I wish they would have sent us menthols instead, but it is what it is. All right. We have... I wrote give Wayne and Luke an Oscar. I thought this scene was well done.
Yeah, it's certainly acted very well, but like, I mean, I just couldn't get over like the monster that Wayne is here, like just obliterating his son, and I don't get it. Like, it's just too over the top for me. Like, it's still your son. I don't know if this kind of harsh love, if you even want to call it that, is necessary. It's a bit over the top for me.
So, I feel like if Wayne is going to go all Old Testament on the Abbotts, rather than him being comically like crazy, we need to see like why Wayne is vicious and where he can like win in a knife fight. So I felt like this was necessary because I think even our conversations, like, we think Wayne's funny. Like, Wayne's not a threat. Wayne is just like comically like the bad guy. And so while it came out of nowhere, although he was in a coma for a lot of this show, I do feel like this is necessary to remind us that, oh yeah, Wayne is a monster and there's a reason why Royal hates him. Like, I don't know. So that's how I took it. But it was brutal and quite possibly my favorite scene of television ever. It's one of those things where I've clipped it in the show, and every morning I just watch it while I'm drinking my cup of coffee and smoking my Marlboro Red. A pack a day.
Yes.
Be like me, kids. A pack a day. Marlboro.
Watch a father abuse his son and smoke some cigarettes. Be like me.
Tom, I just got off the phone. We've lost that sponsorship. They were listening in. So here we go. Luke shows up and Luke then takes some space drug. I wrote space drug. Sorry, devil's powder, to make all of his cares go away.
What's Luke's plan here? Is it just he's so mad at Billy for having the love of the father that he wants to kill Billy? Like, I don't get why he goes to try to attack him here.
Yeah, this is a classic Oedipus complex. He's got to kill his brother in order to kiss his dad. It's a normal. He probably walked in and saw Billy and Wayne kissing, and he's like, "Why can't I be the son you kiss? Why do you never kiss me on the lips, Dad? I learned it from you." As he's rubbing the drug on his gums. I don't know. Like, this was bonkers, 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 bonkers. I do like how every Tillerson is just like hopped up on space dust, though, so it's fun. All right, let's go back to the olden days where Sad Sack Perry, who's getting his Bud Light on, goes into a break room to pee. I didn't really understand this.
It's like a back door. It's essentially like the alleyway back door of the bar.
Oh, I thought he was inside. I thought it was like a storage room. I was like, they should really clear that out and make that part of the bar. Think of all the people you could, that hopping crowd, put some more pool tables in there. Maybe change the menu. Get some, some fresh fruit out here.
Some jalapeno poppers.
Yeah, I love jalapeno poppers. You know who doesn't like jalapeno poppers? Perry, because Perry's a sad sack and he doesn't like anything that's fun. But he certainly doesn't like young Wayne kissing on other women when he's got Cece. He's like, "How dare you cheat on my mom?" And Wayne's like, "What?" And Perry's like, "I'd like to buy some beef, sir." Anyways, Perry can't not beat up a Tillerson, so he beats up and breaks Wayne's nose in the middle of peeing. I thought this was a pretty strong talent.
Yeah, I feel like just watching Perry like slowly walk through the bar and then see Wayne kissing that other woman, called him out. Like, I feel like he had that murder look back in his eyes that we had in season 1. Because we still speculated that he could be on a murder spree, right? Like,
He is. Listen, Sad Sack Barry is in the news somewhere where it's like another body was found, beat to death by fists. And the killer's name is Sad Sack Perry. Yeah, no, he's gonna murder again before this is all out. So yeah, this leads to Cece stopping by to see Wayne, asking for the money, and
for old time's sake. I don't know what that meant.
For old time's sake, yeah, I don't want to know. Seemed a little bit gross. And this was Wayne's simple requests. I want an apology, and I want the West Pasture. She's like, done. I know who I'm married to. He would love to apologize to you. Royal seems like the most apologizing fella in the world. And also, he doesn't care about the West Pasture. I know my husband well. Good. And then she leaves, and this leads to an argument. Not a family meeting, Tom, just a downright argument in the driveway.
Yeah.
Where
classic shouting match.
Classic shouting match. And his point is like, hey, you're trying to save your family name. My name's Sumner. And this brought me to, are they not legally married? They're married, right? They're both Abbotts. He just took her name, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're married.
Okay. So really, he's just trying to be mean because he is an Abbott. He took her name, and it's her ranch. So, yeah. And out of nowhere, Joy climbs out of the black hole. I found very surprising. This was almost like the show being like, hey, remember this character? We haven't showed to you at all during this episode, but don't forget Joy. And then Joy climbs out, which I thought it was great to have her back, but I was a little bit confused as to why.
Yeah, I think we talked about in other pods. Like, I'm very happy to see her back in this world because I want to see what she's going to do, especially now that she's certainly been on some kind of adventure. I like what they did with the cameras. I feel like there's a lot of like twisty, turvy camera work throughout the whole episode, and it kind of climaxed in this final scene where when she's climbing out of the hole, like the camera's completely upside down. I thought it was really neat. I think as they were driving the car out to the hole, like as they see the hole appear, I really thought they were just going to gun it and then just have the car and truck just go straight to the hole. I thought that would have been great.
That would have been great. Yeah, Joy climbs out and she's like, "Hey, I'm right," and then they hit her and they all go through the hole. And then she's back with the Indian tribe, and they've got a vehicle now, and everyone's super confused. And they're like, "Well, how does it work?" And it's like, "Well, do you guys have gasoline?" Nope. All right. Well, it doesn't work. So
it's like Ash from Army of Darkness, Evil Dead series.
Yep. Exactly. This is my boomstick. All right. That leads us to episode 4, which we will be excited to talk about. For those of you that are still with us, we'd love to hear your theories on how this bonkers show is going to end. No theory is too outlandish for us to consider. If you've watched ahead, please don't tell us how it goes, because that would just be mean. But you could
or tell us a different theory. If you know exactly what happens, just give us something completely different that's off the wall, and we'll probably believe it.
Oh, that would be incredible. Like, they're like, "Hey, spoilers, this is what happens. They're all elephants in human skin." You're like, "All right, well, that's an interesting one, but I'd believe it." Because elephants never forget, and that's why this is all about timey-wimey stuff.
Nice. Well done.
Come up with something better than that and reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. You can rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple. Join us on Spotify. Make sure you're smoking those cigarettes, but only if they're Marlboro Reds. Tom, what did I forget?
Yes, follow us on the socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. Continue the conversation there. And again, still very much having fun with the show. It's wild and crazy, and can't wait to see what we have next.
Sure. Tom, do you eat hummus?
I love hummus.
All right, talk to me. So when you get hummus, most of the hummuses, you open them up and it's hummus, and then in the middle is like, I don't know, like some sort of flavoring, like whatever that flavor of hummus is. When you get it, are you, and I don't want to telegraph my answer, are you a monster who takes a spoon and mixes it all in? Or do you like eat the hummus by actively avoiding that sweet, sweet flavor circle in the middle? I like to call it the bonfire of flavor because all the other hummus is just gathered around it. How do you eat your hummus, Tom?
I don't have a very sophisticated palate, so if I see something in the middle of my hummus that I don't know what it is, it scares me. So I'm going to eat all around that hummus.
So do you throw the center away, or when you get to that part, you then eat it?
Well, I thought you're supposed to actually like cut the center out and then throw it away. So you're only supposed to eat the edges. I get like a cookie cutter and I put it in the middle of my hummus. And then, get rid of that.
Yeah, you get rid of the core of the hummus. That makes sense. Okay. So you're a serial killer because... That, and you're very wealthy because you're getting rid of at least a fourth of that hummus. You're like, this is an obstacle to be avoided. Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well,
been burned one too many times.
I'm still waiting on the Department of Justice to give us a ruling on this. I know they've been busy.
You can really tell when Julian tweets on our account versus when I tweet.
You're welcome, everyone. Listen, I'd love to hear people's hummus takes. What is that circle about? I honestly, for the first time in my life, and I've been eating hummus. I know this is a humble brag. I've been eating hummus for a long time. I opened one up. I thought about it, and I stirred that into it. So that all that stuff was in all the other parts of the hummus, and I ate it like that. And that's the first time I've ever done that.
And it was good?
Yeah, it was fine. It didn't change anything, but I then didn't have the center that I had to avoid, you know? So... All right, this has been Hummus Talk with Tom and Julian. We'll be back for episode 4. For Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And I have been Cowboy Tom. Till next week, everybody.